Hey, welcome to another episode of a late ASF game review. And today, review is about the original Donkey Kong on Super Nintendo. Well, Donkey Kong Country. And I played it on stream a couple years back. And it was on the SNES Mini Classic. I do have the box and stuff somewhere, but I played it on the SNES Classic, and I added a bunch more ROMs on there. So I mean, it is just ROMs. So I had like pretty much the whole SNES library you can put on these if you didn't know. But anyways, talk about Donkey Kong Country and kind of my first experience with the game. Uh, was way back when it came out. What, 94, 95, somewhere around there. Super Nintendo was like one of those consoles growing up. For me, was like one of my first consoles outside of a Game Boy, and it was one of those systems that like it's the family's system. So, um, it always had the Donkey Kong Country games though. Like we had probably back then like 15 games, maybe 20 at most, and like a handful of them were like almost shovelware types. But like the games we did have, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, had all of them at that time. But this is just talking about Donkey Kong Country 1, and like the very first time playing it, I remember it being like pretty awesome. Right? Like you could play as two different characters in classic platforming, and the game was like moderately long, kind of like it felt like when I was younger, but when I played it through stream the last time, like I think I beat the game within, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 hours or so, somewhere around there. I was probably taking it pretty slow, and yeah, it's a great game from start to finish, just because you have Donkey Kong that can kill the larger enemies, and then you can also get on enemies, and then you had Diddy that's like faster Kong, and that unique thing to the game, I feel like, with the like bonus stages and running from like the music the music on this game. Donkey Kong Country has like some of the best uh, video game music, let alone the Super Nintendo music, but some of the best video game music, period. And like that's one of the really awesome things about it is the music from stage to stage is different, and kind of like the world per world is slightly different, but each level that you go to, because you're going from level to level to level after you beat them, was like awesome music. The only thing I know when you get to like past the first like, I don't know what you call it. It's not a level because it's like the whole combined, and then you go to the next, like, it's not a world, right? I don't know what you would call that, like a stage maybe. Okay, so like maybe the second stage, and then you get to the minecart level. I think everyone that's played Donkey Kong Country remembers the minecart level, and that was like instantly back then. You would lose all your lives, die repeatedly. I don't remember it, like it's not a super challenging or hard level. There's just like two or three jumps in particular for the minecart level that's just like, if you miss those jumps, you're gonna die every time. And I feel like a lot of people would die on that level. As far back as I remember that one, and there's like a couple other ones towards like the mid to late game, and that are like a little more challenging, or there's fun levels that like the lights turn off and then you have to hit something for them to turn on. uh there's so much variety in Donkey Kong Country that like it's a classic title that I go back to every so often. If I'm not playing it on the SNES Mini, I play it on Analog Pocket, either with dock, without dock, on Steam Deck, on hell on your phone at this point, and like you could hop in, beat a couple levels, and it's like just a calm feeling game. I really feel that it's like and it's really nostalgic for me because I remember playing Donkey Kong Country as a kid and loving it back then. Um is the first one my absolute favorite? I really like the second one a lot more, but I love the first game is amazing, and there wouldn't be a second game without the first one, right? So the first game really put it on the map as like, hey, Donkey Kong Country is a stable, and like even now they're trying to like still trying to make the Donkey Kong, what was it, the Tropical Freeze one that was like real similar, and I like that game too. But classic Donkey Kong Country 1 is so good, and you just get that mix of like two characters that each level is slightly different depending on what character you're playing as at that time. And that could be, excuse me, and that could be random too. Like you could die or hit an enemy hit you or something, and you're like you got to figure it out as the other character, either Donkey Kong or Diddy, either one. But you know, everyone like I feel like prefers to be Diddy in that game, and because you're much faster and you can do the cartwheel. But Donkey Kong's useful too because he kills a lot of the bigger enemies that he can't. So their uniqueness as they go through the levels, and then there's like a boss stage at the end. Um, and the boss fights are pretty simple, or pretty like, you know, you hit them three to five times or something on the head, or you jump on them, or um, they're pretty simple. Even the final boss, oh, might as well get to that point too. Is the last stages are significantly harder than the first two or three stages, but they're also like very cool, chill music, and I feel like that last final stage with a bunch of levels, that one is probably the hardest. But there's save points, and then there's like ways to get extra lives. You can do bonuses. There's so much good variety in this game. I really feel like, and um, I know it's a late as fuck review of a game I probably played and beat 30 years ago. But I've beaten it more recently on stream. I go back to the Donkey Kong Country games every so often, and the nostalgia is just it's there on all three of them. But there's something special about the first one. Um, I remember like having the like arcade Super Nintendo stick and like trying to play it on that controller back then. The original regular controller is a much better way to play it, but I remember having that when I was little and trying to play the game using the like arcade Super Nintendo stick. If anyone remembers that, or I don't remember what it was called. I don't have it. It's just a wonderful game, honestly. From the gameplay is awesome, and the different totally different levels throughout the entire, like I don't think there's some levels similar, but all the levels are vastly different overall, and the music hits. It hits. Like these are some of the best. Like you could fire up the FLAC files on Donkey Kong Country OST and be happy and zone out to that. There's good study music. It's overall a great, and then the bottom to the game, right? You finally get up to Donkey Kong Island, and um, you you beat the boss, right? And then it kind of like fakes you out, like, oh no, you didn't. And you just gotta hit him a couple more times. That was always like the cool gimmick of like you got someone like, and I know like back in the day, I feel like some people got definitely fell for that, and then I actually killed King Krog or whatever, and that's that's always been an awesome ending of like you're on that ship boat, and I love pirate ships and different types of ships like that, and that's an awesome one because that's the final boss, and that last final fight is always one of the most memorable, and then you finally beat him, and then it's like, did you? And then he kind of hops around a little more, and you got to hit him once or twice. That was really great. Back in the day, remember that part fondly. And then also playing two players, where one person has one controller, the other person has another controller, or you take turns and to get through the game. I think that concept was really unique and different, kind of. And I know, like me and my sister at the time, or back then, used to play two players all the time and get through the games, and um, I don't know, it's just a lot of good memories. And I've never actually done a review of the game. To me, like Donkey Kong Country is certified classic. Uh, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 because I feel like the second one to me is a different score. But maybe I'll do a review on that one at some point. But Donkey Kong Country is like a 9 out of 10 certified classic. The music 10 out of 10. The gameplay 10 out of 10. But there's some parts of it that like it's just because all the later games improved on it. But I really loved it. So, anyways, that's Donkey Kong Country on SNES, and that's my review. Late as fuck, of course.